Okay.
Welcome, friends. Today we're coming to you from the ULT-DC platform and on meet.google.com. From 11 to noon today, we'll have a talk on theosophical symbols, followed by continuation of our study of the Book of Images. Next Sunday from 11 a.m. to noon, we will continue our study on the key to the Theosophy at meet.google.com/ndp-tshi-mci, which is our website for these purposes. The Declaration of ULT, which is followed by all ULTs in the world. This lodge is independent, its devotion to the cause of Theosophy without professing attachment to any theosophical organization. It is loyal to the great founders of the Theosophical movement, but does not concern itself with dissensions or differences of individual opinion. The work it has on hand and the end it keeps in view are too absorbing and lofty to leave it the time or inclination to take part in side issues. That work and that end is the dissemination of the fundamental principles of the philosophy of Theosophy and the exemplification and practice of those principles through a true realization of the self, a profounder conviction of universal brotherhood. It holds the unassailable basis for union among Theosophists, wherever and however situated, the similarity of aim, purpose, and teaching, and therefore has neither constitution, bylaws, nor officers, the sole bond between its associates being that basis. And it aims to disseminate this idea among Theosophists in the furtherance of unity. In regard to Theosophists, all who are engaged in the true service of humanity without distinction of race, creed, sex, condition, or organization, and it welcomes to its association all those who are in accord with its declared purposes and whose desire to fit themselves by study and otherwise to be the better able to help and teach others. The true Theosophist belongs to no cult or sect, yet belongs to each and all. The fundamental propositions, starting at the top of page 14 of the Secret Doctrine, we find these propositions on volume 1. The three fundamentals that work together as one. They apply to nature's laws as presented in Theosophy. The first fundamental is on deity, the unity of all existence, the rootless root of all that was, that is, and never shall be. It extends beyond the range of human comprehension, and it can only be dwarfed by any human expression. It is beingness rather than being, and is thought of as a great breath, the one reality. It is dynamic energy that might be linked to that small voice that wells up within every individual soul, that consciousness that should be our guide. Spirit and matter, soul, life, embodied and unembodied. What people generally call God or deity is an accident of life. The omnipresent principle which invisibly functions as in the cosmos. And it was divided as a self in the heart above every creature. Number one aspect of law is life. People of the laws of people speak of the laws of God, laws of nature, it would be more accurate to speak of God as law. God, life, self, and are not different from law. They are law. The spirit of the universe also surrounds us. Is in its influence in within each of us. We eternal pilgrims have the opportunity to become gods, are one with the absolute through sustained effort. We honor the gods, the superior beings to emulate, but not as beings outside oneself. Second fundamental is on the law. That brings out an analogy between the process of nature in the cycle and in the individual man. Day and night, life and death, sleeping and waking, karma and reincarnation. All man's lower principles at every time. And then and uses them again.
Someone is not muted.
Man's lower principles disintegrate in time, and then you use them again, and then man's lower principles disintegrate in time, and nature uses them again with their various imprints. From past usages to form new human principles. The same process takes place in the disintegration and formation of the world. There is a perpetuation of exchanges of atoms correlating and changing their combining equivalents like the perfect flower dying in order to grow into a perfect fruit. Man himself punishes and rewards based on his deeds. As above, so it is below. The third fundamental is on evolution. The whole order of nature is progressively marching toward a higher life in the cycle of incarnation or necessity. No spiritual booty or divine soul can have an independent conscious existence, for the spark from its essence has passed through every elemental form and has acquired individuality first by a natural impulse from the mineral plant and up to the animal, and then up to the human stage. Thereafter, we progress by self-induced and self-devised effort, checked by karma, up to the holiest archangel or dynamic Buddha. Each entity must have won for itself the right to become divine through self-experience. The physical evolves gradually from the spiritual, mental, and psychic. Elementals are all future men. No one has ever reached a depth in one embodiment. Each man has within himself the spark of an adept and can evolve into an adept through self-induced and self-devised methods, aided by masters of the wisdom to the extent allowed by karma. Our reading today comes from the Boss of the Thalass, starting on page 20. Withhold our mind from all external objects, all external sights. Withhold internal images, lest on thy soul light a dark shadow they should cast. Thou art now in the Dharma, the sixth stage. When thou hast passed into the seventh, O happy one, thou shalt receive no more the sacred three, for thou shalt have become that three and self, that self. Thyself and mind, like twins upon a line, the star which is thy goal burns overhead. The three that dwell in glory and in bliss ineffable, now in the world of Maya, have lost their names. They have become one star, the fire that burns but scorches not. That fire, which is the body of the flame. And this, O yoga of success, is what men call Guyana, the right precursor of Samadhi. And now thyself is lost in self. Thyself and to thyself merged in that self, from which thou first didst radiate. Where is the individuality, Lanu? Where is the Lanu himself? It is the star lost in the fire, the drop within the ocean, the ever-present ray, one become the all and eternal radiance. And now, Lanu, thou art the doer and the witness, the radiator and the radiation, light and the sound, and sound to the light. And now for today's talk on Theosophical symbols.
Hey, good morning, friends. Today we will talk about theosophical symbology and not so much of the symbols in its seal or the symbols that we perceive as symbols, but more of a symbology of theosophy in the world's history, philosophy, religion, and art. We often, as theosophists, we look at theosophy from inside out because we are studying much more refined concepts that we want to get to the depths of. But today I would like to invite you to look at theosophy from outside with the eyes of an onlooker that may not be familiar with theosophy at all, and really to have that eagle's view of theosophy and to fully appreciate and understand its contribution to the world thought and as well as history and significance of the theosophy when the world was in a very different place. So now I would like to invite you to visit 1875. So 1875, this is where HTPB is working on setting up the society in New York, where most of the work starting to appear, and the Theosophical movement is gaining speed. So what is happening outside of the Theosophy at this time in the world? So what will be the defining parameters of the world in 1875? So first and probably most predominant movement at that time is increasing competition in colonialism. So this is where the colonial powers are really fighting for the dominance in Asia and Africa. So this is the world really coming to the collision of the colonial powers in dividing the world, and mostly Asia and Africa, where this is escalating. The colonialism is defined by a civilizing mission, where the Western nations, Western imperial nations, coming to the other parts of the world to civilize and to bring their own ideology and Christian religion. So this is one big defining factor of the end of 1800s, and specifically 1870s. When we look at the United States, this is the end of the Civil War. We are just starting to, we're just embarking on the construction. There is a huge pushback from the South. So the slavery in this institution just ended, 11 years ago. So this is where the United States is. Now we can leap to the countries where HPB is coming, Ukraine and Russian Empire. They just abolished serfdom. So same movement, United States, people were basically not considered to be people that belonged to someone, and they were tied to the land. So Russian Empire, Ukraine abolishes serfdom. India is under British domination. So it is under the colonial rule of the Britain. And Britain is, at that time, is a dominant imperial power. This is the political scheme. And also in Germany, this is beginning of the rise of Germany under the rule of Bismarck. So this is the Germany also gaining its strength that will soon result in the two world wars. So what are the other predominant features of that age? Definitely Christianity is a predominant religion of the Western imperial powers that is being enforced in its colonial domains. And when you look at the power of individuals, it is more or less non-existent, and it is under the rule worldwide or imperial governments or religious institutions. The religious thought is dominated by Christian religion, and the institution is dominated mostly by male leadership. When you look at the rights of women, they neither have rights to vote or they have rights to possess any property. So basically, they're completely powerless and not having any access to resources unless they're married and through their husbands. So this is the world of 1875. And now if we put in that perspective, the birth of the Theosophical movement, I think we can truly understand and appreciate its contribution and the message it was bringing to the world. Right now, to us, this is past in the history, and we're more looking into our own sort of understanding of more deeper concepts. But what did the Theosophical message mean to the world? So first, and probably for most significant one, the Theosophical movement brought together the Eastern and Western religious philosophies. And in the context of a colonial world, it basically said that these worldviews, these religions, these philosophies are not inferior to Christianity, that they are all kernels of the same wisdom religion. So they are put on the same footing. So again, to us, this is just completely normal today. But in 1875, this was a completely revolutionary message to say that the colonial religions have the same kernel of truth as the dominant religion of the time, Christianity. So this is the one big statement the Theosophy brought in the world that was before unheard of. The second contribution was that this was the beginning of all New Age movements. So all New Age movements that we hear today of originated from Theosophical movement, and they've be it the movements by Steiner, Roerich, Ballard, they all took the origins with the teachings of HPB. So this was the beginning of liberalization of religious thought. The third contribution, and not a small one, was on Indian politics. And that it influenced the establishment of Indian National Congress by Alan Hume, who was a theosophist and who was basically applying theosophical teaching in his life and in political structures. So then we have Jawaharlal Nehru, the first prime minister of India, who was also following the theosophical teachings. So there is a huge impact and influence on the Indian politics and nationhood. Then we can also look at the art and the theosophical contribution to art. We have several artists, Alf Klint, Kandinsky, Piet Mondrian, who've been influenced by theosophical movements, who've been theosophists, who've been following the teachings and basically express the teaching in their art. And the one and probably one of the most transformative people of the 19th century Mr. Edison himself was not a stranger to Theosophy, and so we don't have a record of his of him basically becoming a member of the Theosophical Society. In all of the references HPP has to Edison, it is clear that they were known to each other and they had a very cordial relationship where she's always very complimentary of him. So this is the impact on the arts and sciences. And this is just a few. We're not speaking of Einstein, who also kept secret doctrine by his bedside. So there was a huge influence on the thought, art, and sciences of the time. Now, the other big contribution, and something that was unheard in the time, the Theosophical movement is led by HPB. It's led by a woman. And again, to us right now, it is, well, what is the big deal in that? Once again, I've presented the state of women in the 1870s, where they did not have right to property, they did not have right to vote, and they definitely did not have any standing in any of the Christian institutions. And here we have a movement led by a woman. So this was also a statement to the world, and that influenced the movement of the feminist movement around the world, that many drew inspiration from her. So again, this was completely revolutionary in the time. The next thing that I would like to highlight is probably the most important one. Until 1875, when the Theosophical movement gained momentum, there was never a notion that another religion can be equal to the other and that they all derive from one source. Each religious movement had its own prophet, its own founders, its own truths, and never they were linked between. They never related to each other. So this was a completely groundbreaking thought, that all religious movements that humanity espouses to belong to one source, and they all hold the kernel of truth. So this was the first time bringing humanity together on the basis of its deepest separation lines, separation by religion. So the next one, I just described the state of the world in 1875, and this is the time of colonialism and of the racial hierarchies. And what HPB does, it basically in the declaration says that there is the Theosophy does not recognize any separation by race, creed, or any attribute. That all people are equally possess the spark of the divine, just as all religions are part of one or original source of wisdom. So in 1875, when US just fought the Civil War, where Russia just abolished serfdom, where some people were not even considered humans, she calls for complete equality of all people and recognizes that all of them as divine as the other. This was a just completely revolutionary thought that no one before have ever professed. So the next one, she is basically proclaiming that Hinduism and Buddhism are not inferior to Judaism and Christianity. And again, to us, this is not a big deal, but again, let's look at the colonial time of 1800s, where the imperial powers are bringing Christianity to these countries, and Buddhism and Hinduism considered to be completely inferior and not to be basically even noted. And she brings these two traditions equal to all others. So again, this was an enormous contribution. So she is the first one who is bringing the bridge between the West and the East, and uniting the entire humanity into the equal society of people that all possess spark of the divine, and proclaiming that all religions belong to one wisdom religion. this is an enormous contribution. And what is interesting that now we do not look back and don't acknowledge as much, but the one factor that acknowledged it, and I think that means a lot, is artificial intelligence. I did a test search. I basically entered the state of affairs in 1875 in the world. And to my greatest surprise, the AI right away sort of runs through all of the major events and movements. And one of the movements into the philosophical thought was Theosophy. That it is so predominant somewhere in the different literature on internet that AI pulled it up and said one of the major impact on the thought in 1800s was the Theosophical movement. I did not expect this. This was quite interesting, and I could not print it, but I can just read it from the, it was in the top AI summary of what was happening in 1875. So it did note the Theosophical movement as one of the key events. So this is what the world heard from the Theosophy. It did not go and read the Secret Doctrine and Isis Unveiled and other books, but it understood the key messages. This is the key messages of the exoteric Theosophy. Now when we go to esoteric Theosophy, what were the key messages that were left for us to carry back into the world and promote throughout the centuries? I would like to read the Golden Stairs, as I felt that most of the messages that HPB left for us are in that very, very short passage. Behold the truth before you, a clean life, an open mind, a pure heart, an eager intellect, an unveiled spiritual perception, a brotherliness for one other co-disciple, a readiness to give and receive advice and instruction, a loyal sense of duty to the teacher, a willing obedience to the behest of truth in capital letters. Once we have placed our confidence in and believe the teacher to be in possession of it, a courageous endurance of personal injustice, a brave declaration of principles, a valiant defense of those who are unjustly attacked, and a constant eye to the ideal of human progression and perfection, which the secret science depicts. These are the golden stairs, up the steps of which the learner may climb to the temple of divine wisdom. So beautifully said. And now let's try to analyze each important segment in this writing. So basically in Golden Stairs, she describes the key attributes of a theosophist, of a student on the steps to the divine wisdom. So first, she notes a clean life. And when you look at what clean life is basically an integrity. It's an integrity to your higher self, integrity to the Theosophical community, integrity to the community that we live all together in. So clean life is, first of all, integrity to higher self and integrating all of the aspects of that in our life and our interactions with the society, and starting with family to our work to other students and to the society at large. Then she notes something important: eager intellect, rigorous inquiry, and open mind. So those two are important. She says open mind. What does open mind actually mean? Open mind is being inclusive, being understanding of others, not rejecting, but open to all possibilities of unknown. As in every story, there is a part of truth, and sometimes we like to deny when somebody tells something that doesn't make sense from our perspective. We right away go into the defense and denial, but they may be saying just the same, in their own words. So this is what she calls to us to retain this open mind, when we can hear in the other our own beliefs, our own strives, as at the end, we're all one, we're all in total, in complete unity, and maybe just expressing the same in a different language. Eager intellect, rigorous inquiry. So this is about inquiry and questioning, and this was completely in sort of in a new message in 1875 that basically was an age of dogma. It was still an age of Christian dogma that was about to be shaken by the science, and having rigorous inquiry and eager intellect in spiritual matters was completely new. While sciences were questioning the status quo of the religions, the religion itself was, all of them were completely in the dogma state. So having eager intellect and questioning and looking for our own answers and following our own higher self was one of the keys that she's described. The next one that she talks about, unveil spiritual perception. So this is about the outcome of the clean life, open mind, and eager intellect. When one integrates the three, then there would be an unveiled spiritual perception. So more of the seeing with the third eye, perceiving world and life spiritually, rather than just with the analysis of what we can see and what we can touch. Then she names brotherliness. So this is again one of the key theosophical tenets of our unity and our brotherliness. And again, when you look at the state of affairs in 1875, that was completely revolutionary. Next, readiness to give and receive advice and instruction. And she combines here both readiness to give advice and receive advice. We so often fall into one or the other extreme, when we know all and just give advice, or when we feel that we're powerless and just want to be taught. So this is really an empowerment of individual to be both the student and the teacher. And loyal sense of duty to the masters, to the teachers. Now this is an interesting, so we can stop here and say, well, if we're talking to the exoteric brothers and sisters, how do we explain to them who are the teachers and masters? Well, there is a hierarchy of teachers, but the master, for when we speak to someone who would not know Theosophy and explaining who is the master we all have in ourselves is our higher self, is that divine that is in us. This is the very first master that we need to listen to before we hear in the voice of silence the voices of the other masters. And the next one is willing obedience to the behest of truth, unity of all in all, God, soul, and man. And truth is in the capital letters. So what is truth? The truth is what was mentioned in the introduction is the three fundamentals. It's the periodically unfoldment of the universe and all beings and things in it that are connected to universal reality, and that truth is to be found in all religions, in all people, and in all ways of life. So understanding that we are all in one unity in that unfoldment of the unknown, omnipresent, universal principle, and there is no separation in religions, in races, in nations, in viewpoints, that if we embrace that in us, then we become that. But if we limit ourselves by all of these beliefs that I'm this but not that, then we will never see the truth, because we will only see limitation that we put ourselves in. So any definition of divine is impossible, because it's incomprehensible. And in the same way, if we define ourselves that I'm this and not that, and I like this and I don't like that, we also limit the truth we can see. So at the end, it's only us who will be on the losing end. So then she tells what the Theosophist should be doing. And there are two things that she highlights. First one is courageous endurance of personal injustice. And you would think it's basically similar to what we hear Jesus saying in the New Testament is if they hit you on one cheek, give the other one. Courageous endurance of personal injustice. Why would she be speaking of the courageous endurance of personal injustice? And the student thought that it links to the ego and ego-less state, because if we are in the ego, then all injustice is very, very painful and we don't want to endure it. If we really trespass the state of the ego, then any injustice towards us really does not have that, it loses the bite. Because if we don't have the ego, there are just so many things that can hurt us. And we often think of importance of the self and seeking to define self and sort of oppose it to the rest of the world. But what is interesting to look that in the Theosophical teaching, what she teaches us is that there is no self per se, that actually if you found self, if you found your higher self, if you integrated yourself, if you found self, you wouldn't be looking for it. Like if you found your car keys, you're not looking for the car keys. But if you're in a constant search for the self, then you definitely didn't find it yet. So once you integrated your own self, then you can be part of that truth, of the unity. And this is where the karma loses its sting, because many things become no longer relevant. So this is the on courageous endurance of personal injustice. And the next one, she says that valiant defense of those who are unjustly attacked. So endurance of personal injustice, but complete non-tolerance of seeing others being unjustly attacked. And in this, she's calling us to action and recognizing unity of all, and all of us being one and not tolerating the injustice done towards the other. So instead of fighting injustice done towards you personally and defending that ego, she's calling us to defend the injustice done towards the all. And then she is also saying constant eye on the ideal of human progression and perfection. And this is both the principle, the fundamental of the cycles and our evolution. The constant eye on our progression, that we are here evolving to the higher and higher states. And basically, what I understand by constant eye is basically keeping this as a focal point for all of our actions. How can we aid the progress and the evolution of the humanity? So this is what just one passage in Golden Stairs tells us, quite a lot, if we start really looking into it and thinking about it. And the next thing I was trying to outline the key theosophical tenets. What would you say in the exoteric world about theosophy in a ways that one can simply understand it today in a very simple language? And the first one is definitely the universal reality, that the universe is everywhere at once. We are in it and it's in us, and there is no separation, and we're all interdependent. If we just understand and live this, probably 70% of all the problems will end. Then divine wisdom, understanding that there is a divine wisdom, that there is a hierarchy of teachers, and the secrets in nature and human nature that we yet not understand, and keeping an open eye towards that. That's another important message. Unity, promoting understanding and unity among people of all races, nationalities, philosophies, and religions. And on this, I want to say I just gave the grim view of the world in 1870s, and I'm not sure we have evolved too far from that. We still have a long, long way to go in transforming this. Altruism. The Theosophy encourages a life of altruism and love for all living beings. And again, if you found self, there is no need to seek for it. If you have your car key, why would you spend the rest of the day going all around the house and looking for it? If self is found, then your concern is the rest of the world. The esoteric doctrines, they basically emphasize that all world religions contain inner teaching, and they all come from one source of religion, of the wisdom religion. That again, a complete unity of all world religions. An intelligent evolution. Theosophy promotes the idea that all existence is evolving intelligently on a cosmic scale, and we are here to be part of this evolution and aid that evolution. And to return back to the theosophical symbols we have in the seal, I've listed different contributions of the theosophical thought to the world events, politics, and religions. But probably the most significant message all the time that is still so relevant, and we can see it on the seal, and I'll point it out. In the very center, we see a cross with the circle and the dot. It does look a little bit like a man. And that's what actually it is. So we have the circle of the eternity, the absolute, with the material manifestation, and it's manifested basically in us. She brought the human in the center of all of our worldviews. Before, there was always God in the middle, and we were subservient, we were somewhere else. So she really changed the entire approach. Same thing that we start looking differently, that the planets don't revolve around the Earth. So we do not revolve around some external God. We are in the center of this, and we are those gods. And we are in the center of the universe, of all material manifestation, in the eternity of absolute. And we are the center of it. And that's an extremely powerful message that literally changed the place of the human in all of our worldviews. We are the ones who hold power. We are the ones who can manifest divine in us. We are the ones who can limit ourselves to small self or to espouse the unity of all. So those are the messages, and this is basically theosophy with the eyes of a non-theosophist. So I would like to invite now if you have any questions.
It seems like many of us have those back we have to get rid of, or we can really pick this up. I'm thinking about, wow, this is powerful stuff. Why is it it's taking it? What can we learn next a year or two?
I think we need to mute.
What is that?
It's my mother. Can you? You know how to mute her. Can you please mute? Can you mute her alone?
Yeah, it's muted now.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, so we have to learn a lot of things because most of us have been brought up to believe certain things, and to go beyond those beliefs, we have to dump that to get to the truths, which we never can get to embody, but we can get there. We get a little bit closer than we are now. In fact, a lot closer than we are now. So I suppose that a lot of in most religions have certain things when certain most religions are based on the outside God, not through some no, yeah, it's mostly even the Eastern religions are like that. So we were saying that we have to find that truth within ourselves. We have to find the God within ourselves. We can't do it out. We have to do it. We can get help from our neighbors, but we cannot go beyond what's inside of ourselves. The true grief.
It is true. We often understand things, but it's so hard to act on them. And maybe because the concepts we're talking about we cannot see, so it does take faith. Like we can inquire as much as we want, but we will not see our eternal selves or the unity of all unless, because we cannot see it. We just have to understand that it is. And the thought I have is what limits us is that Maya on two things. Maya on death, that we believe that we're mortal. We may read and say, no, we're immortal, but we can't touch it. We cannot see it. We haven't talked to anyone who's been there. So, and that drives ego, that I need to have everything here now. I need to strive for my survival. And that's beginning of the ego, illusion, ego, Maya trip. But if we could just see that there is no death, that we are eternal, and they were all one, our behavior just wouldn't make sense, but we can't see it, we can't touch it, so we're getting lost in this illusory world that we as individuals need to survive. And I don't know why we are not shown this, why we just have to believe this.
Yeah. We can only see the physical part of it. We have to go beyond that. So we're looking at the physical, this world. Okay, that's just one of seven things we have to do to understand the total picture. And there's little bits within that we have to develop. And each one of us has to do it ourselves.
It's like it's all in our mind. We are the one projecting this illusion and Maya. If we project illusion, then we will live in illusion. If we don't stop projecting that illusion, but it became a consensus, so it's very easy to go with the consensus. And this is what the I think very important message of HPB was, that the consensus is wrong. Because when we look at the consensus of the 19th century, it was going the wrong direction. So she's giving the message that not to go with consensus because this is not the ultimate truth. But it is so hard. So hard. Do we have any more questions online?
Like we have one.
It's interesting that the AI, you know, it takes everything into account equally, one would assume. So we've been removed from the time period that you're talking about by, 150 years. So, and it's often said that, scholars will go back and see things more clearly with 20/20 vision. So that was really interesting that you brought that up.
Yeah, I will read because it was very prominent. So I just did a search, the world in 1875. So and it gave me answer on global political and events, technology and industrial advances, society and culture, science and medicine, political ideologies, then religious and philosophical beliefs. So out of all religious and philosophical beliefs in 1875, AI picked up, Christianity remains dominant in the West, so scientific discoveries challenge biblical interpretation, Theosophy gaining popularity, reflecting a fascination with mysticism. And then the third one was Eastern philosophies, Buddhism, Hinduism, starting to influence Western thought through scholars and travelers. So those are the major movements that AI picked up. And I was very surprised because I didn't think there's just so much on the internet to point AI that direction. And now I start thinking maybe AI is smart.
Well, it's as smart as we can. It's as smart as we make it.
Yeah, but I didn't ask it about Theosophy. I just asked major movements in 1875. Major, basically, what was world like?
But even AI is wonderful a tool that it is. We have to manage that tool.
Well, the masters calculated the timing to inject some of these ideas, and of course, we seem surprised, but why should we be?
Yeah.
It sounds so simple, but yet when you get through the layers of the stuff that we have to go through, it isn't so simple anymore. We have to figure out what to discard,
And when you look really at magnitude of the message in 1875, this is just yeah. When you look at the context,
so we haven't gone very far, but we have. When you look at 1875 compared with now, there is progress.
It's I think the progress is also in cycles. So a little bit forward, a little bit back, a little bit forward, a little bit back.
So you had mentioned that a big challenge to teach people outside the theosophical movement is how do you behold your inner self, or how do you become a little more conscious of your higher self? And what Mr. Judd says is that unless you practice brotherhood and consider yourself as one with the all, that intuitive power will not manifest itself. So we really have to practice that in real life, in daily life, that we are not separate, and that the real self is the self of all. And that's the only way to make true progress.
Yeah. And I think that's why HPB told us to have open mind. Because this is the problem, that if people have closed mind, the moment they hear something that doesn't resonate, it's no. But to keep that open, inquiring mind.
Yes.
Okay. We make this step by step with every thought, in every action. Is our action and thought, the thinking is an action. So what is our motives behind those things? And all those thoughts are the thoughts we have every day.
Yeah. And the saying came, I don't remember the author, but it was during the Second World War, when he said, today they came for us, tomorrow they come for you. So this is when she talks about the injustice committed towards others. We should not tolerate injustice towards others, because right now they are others, but tomorrow it is you, because we're all one. When there is injustice, it's injustice against all.
Yes. Absolutely.
And I think very relevant these days. And I think then we will close now, and we'll resume with the study in 10 minutes at 12:10.
Yeah, the light in the head is the subject.
Yes.
We started with today.
Okay. Okay, then I'll pause.
Be back with you in about 10 minutes?
Yeah, 10, 15,
15 minutes.
15 minutes.
12, 10.
I'll grab a coffee. Yes, 12:10.